Welcome to The Record Show, your virtual spin around the vinyl industry. Brought to you by Radio Wasteland Records. Yes, Midland has a record store. Here's your host, Jim Gleason.
Well, greetings from the Wasteland and welcome to this latest edition of The Record Show. Well, Record Store Day drop number 2 is just over a week away, and because of that, things have gotten a little bit busy, not only here around our store, but pretty much everywhere else involved with this monumentous event. So we won't be hearing from Ken today about this week's new releases. I'll do my best to handle them here coming up in just a moment or two. Some Record Store Day drop news, though, first, if we could. There have been a large group of titles moved out of Record Store Day drop number 2 that planned on releasing on the 17th that have been delayed and will be released at some later date. Those titles include The Best of Judas Priest, a Charlie Parker release, Mr. Big, Lean Into It, Mastodon, Jerry Garcia Bands, the 30th anniversary of that, All Them Witches, live on the internet. I know a lot of folks were looking forward to that one, but that is going to be coming out at some point later. King's X and The Wailing Souls among the titles that have been moved out of Record Store Day drop number 2, so you'll have to look for them at an independent record store sometime down the line. So one other piece of news about Record Store Day drop number 2 is that the Foo Fighters Bee Gees album cover, an album known as the DGs Hail Satin, looks like it is going to be rationed fairly significantly across the board. I know here at our store we put in for quite a few, I think well over 30 it was in our request, and we're only going to be getting pretty much a fraction of that. So check the availability if this is one that is on your Grail list for drop number 2 on Saturday the 17th. Make sure that your store has enough copies to go around because this looks like it could be a fairly heavily rationed and in-demand copy coming around for that. Well, as for this week's new releases, as I'd mentioned, Ken is kind of tied up this week getting all of those Record Store Day releases out to stores like ours. So we'll kind of cover them here as well. Coming up on Friday, July 9th, looks like a big soundtrack release day in some cases. The Almost Famous soundtrack is coming out. It is a double LP and includes what they're calling unreleased photos. Not quite certain what that means. And yes, this release of the Almost Famous reissue has the song Fever Dog by Stillwater included in on this. Now, this is a double release coming up on this Friday, but there will also be a deluxe edition available in August of the Almost Famous soundtrack. That looks like it's coming out on August 20th. This will be a 6 LP set with 47 songs from the film and a Stillwater poster, a 40-page booklet, and the William Miller cover story on Stillwater being released as a 1973 Rolling Stone magazine print. So they're going to make that cover a print for William Miller's thing on there. So that box set, by the way, coming up in August will list for around $200. So pretty much something for the Almost Famous fans. Back to this Friday, though, as I mentioned, there's a few other soundtracks that look to be hitting. A reissue of the Space Jam soundtrack on double LP, red and black vinyl, as well as Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof being released on colored vinyl. That's a in-demand soundtrack when you see it. That was a special release, but now it's getting a wider reissue, so look for that. Also is one from the Umbrella Academy, the streaming service favorite, but this is not the music. If you've seen Umbrella Academy, it does have some pretty cool period music throughout there, but this is actually the score from the Umbrella Academy. Looks like it's coming out on white vinyl with a bonus 7-inch as well. Also due this Friday is Clutch Blast Tyrant. This is part of their Clutch Collector series. There is a big Motorhead box set coming out. It's a reissue from 1981's No Sleep Till Hammersmith, a 40th anniversary reissue, a 3 LP set with a 20-page booklet for you Motorhead fans. There's also going to be a reissue of Space Hogs Resident Alien. That was a Record Store Day drop release, I believe, from last year that was fairly limited and popular. We can also look forward to Voivod. They're reissuing Outer Limits. Some cool stuff from Voivod. And Alice Cooper, not to be outdone, is reissuing Welcome to My Nightmare. Looks like this one is coming out on clear vinyl. So check for those releases and more at your local independent record store coming up this Friday. And finally today, hey, we told you this was going to be an abbreviated episode. Hopefully things will get back to normal for next week. But regardless, I wanted to take a spin from the wasteland and combine that with a Discogs quick tip. We had something come into the store a couple weeks ago, and quite frankly, I was a little bit mystified on this one because I don't speak nor read Japanese, and so this was a little difficult to track down. But using the Runout Groove and some of the codes punched into there, I was able to find this on Discogs finally. It's a group called Gamu. It's a Japanese folk duo that was active from between 1980 and 1984. They've come out with 3 albums, and this is their first album from 1981, which I can't quite pronounce, but the translation has it as Dream Spelling. Now, I don't know how correct that is. I'm relying on Google Translate to kind of get that one across for us. But when you look at this release on its Discogs entry page, it lists the genre as funk soul with subgenres of pop, folk, world, and country. Since I had not listened to this album yet, I took the Discogs entry at its word. But the issue comes in with its genre descriptions. After throwing this on the table, it's really anything but funk soul or folk, world, and country. Best I could determine, it's some sort of lounge pop music from Japan in the early 80s. Now, one of Discogs' greatest strengths is also what caused the problem in this case with the Gamu album. It is a user-driven database, which means that folks can add this information in. In fact, Discogs depends upon users to enter in the millions and millions of entries that exist on the database. But sometimes the identification of a genre can be a little bit subjective. Again, I would not consider this to be funk in any way, shape, or the word. Maybe some of Gamu's other albums touch into that folk or funk style, but for me, this really came nowhere near that. So if you're ever unsure as to what a record might sound like, if you're unfamiliar with the group or a particular work from an artist, what you do is scroll down on that release page. Most of the time, you'll see a video link on the release page that'll take you to a YouTube sample of that particular song or album. But again, Discogs relies on users to make sure that those videos are the correct version and are attached to the proper release. But if they are, you can use that tool to get a proper sampling of the music that you have a question about. Again, I don't believe that Gamu is anywhere near that Japanese funk, soul, or pop type music at all. But again, that's just me. Thanks for watching The Record Show. If you haven't done so yet, please make sure to subscribe to the Radio Wasteland Records YouTube channel. And be sure to hit that notifications bell so you'll be alerted every time we upload new content.